Hi there,
Hey.
we're Sean and Allison from Spoken Garden, and we're partnering with Eden Brothers to help you in your garden.
Yeah, we're going to show you how to sow your pumpkin seeds indoors and outdoors step by step today.
Yeah, but it's really helpful to know and also to think about pumpkins actually grow really well on a trellis. It helps them form really nice round shapes with fewer blemishes.
Yeah, you're also going to need to find the right site to grow these in before you plant them. They like to grow in full sun locations with fertile, well-draining soil, and that soil pH needs to be a neutral pH, so about 7. They also like to be grown in well-protected areas from heavy rain and wind. Before we show you how to sow these pumpkin seeds, we want to let you know a little bit more about pumpkins. There's a couple different kinds of pumpkins out there, including carving, soup and pies, miniatures, giants, and heirloom. Now, most pumpkins are great for either canning or carving, and pumpkins generally are hardy in zones 3 through 10. Botanically, pumpkins are actually considered a fruit because they come from a seed-bearing structure of a flowering plant. Now, today we're going to show you how to sow small sugar pumpkin seeds, and they have a vibrant orange, smooth exterior with a super sweet flavor when you cook them up, and they have a nice smooth texture. Also, these small sugar pumpkins are great for canning and baking, but they're also wonderful for decorations, for carving, and just to grow.
Okay, before we sow our pumpkin seeds, let's talk about when to sow them so you can plan and prepare ahead. So you can either sow them indoors or outdoors, depending on your needs and your climate. If you want to get an early jump on the season, sow them indoors at least 2 to 4 weeks before your last spring frost, and then you can have time to harden them off and transplant them outside. If you want to sow them outdoors and just make it easier on yourself, just make sure that in your climate, your soil is workable and it's at least 65 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's no more chance of frost outside. All right, let's sow some pumpkins indoors. The first step is to get your soil ready for planting. We're using seed cell trays here filled with pre-moistened seed starting soil, but you can use potting soil or any other type of medium. The next step is to get ready for sowing, and it's helpful to have a tool ready like a dibber or a chopstick or a knife. We're using our own tool called the Dibby XL. Each pumpkin seed needs to be planted at a depth of 1 inch, so we're going to use our Dibby XL to make small 1-inch indentations in each cell. Next, remove your seeds from your packet and drop at least 1, maybe 2 seeds per hole. The next step is to cover each seed with a little bit of soil. Gently moisten your planting holes with water. And that's how you sow your pumpkin seeds indoors.
Your pumpkin seeds will germinate best when your soil is consistently moist and the soil temperature is kept at 65 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. The warmer your soil, the faster your seeds will germinate. Now, when your seedlings have reached 4 to 6 inches tall, like you see here, they're ready to be transplanted out into your garden. But you need to go through the hardening off process to make sure that they're ready and get acclimatized to your local environment. To harden your seedlings off, you'll need to gradually bring them outside about an hour or so every day and progressively make that time longer through a 2-week period until you're able to leave them out the last couple days overnight, and then they will become acclimatized to your garden and you can transplant them out into your garden.
Okay, let's sow some pumpkin seeds outdoors. The first step is to prep your planting area, and that means the soil. You want to make sure your soil is full of either compost or really rich organic matter so that you have loose, well-draining soil. Now, we're planting our pumpkin seeds in a raised bed, but if you're planting directly in the ground, you want to mound your soil. This helps the sun heat it faster for better germination. The next step is to get ready for sowing, and this includes spacing and depth for your pumpkin seeds. Now, pumpkin seeds need to be spaced 36 inches apart, whether you're planting 1 row of pumpkins or multiple rows. Now that we have the spacing determined, we need to figure out the planting depth and get that ready. So each pumpkin seed needs to be planted at 1-inch depth. So we're going to use this dibber to make a 1-inch planting hole. The next step is to go ahead and remove your seeds from the packet and drop 3 to 5 seeds per planting hole. Now, it seems like a lot, but what you're going to do is thin to the 2 healthiest seedlings once they've germinated. Cover your planting hole with soil. Finally, gently moisten the top of the soil to start the germination process. And that's how you sow pumpkin seeds outdoors.
Now, before we transplant our seedlings, we need to make sure that we have really well-draining, rich composted soil, but it needs to have a soil pH that needs to be around 7 or neutral. Now you can plant 1 or 2 seedlings together to maximize your planting space. We're just going to plant 1 in each of our planting holes here. Take your seedling out and make that planting hole dropping in your seedling. What you want to do is you want to match up the seedling's soil level with the surrounding soil that you're planting it in, making sure not to plant it too deep or too shallow. Make sure to tamp down the soil around the seedling once you're done. If you're going to plant multiple seedlings, you need to space them 36 inches apart, and we're going to use to measure a hori-hori knife. And what you do is just go from the seedling and measure out 36 inches and mark your planting hole. Take out your next seedling and plant it exactly the same as you planted the other seedling. Match that soil level to the surrounding soil and then tamp it down around the seedling. Make sure you get a firm planting. The last step is to water in your seedlings really thoroughly. Now, over the next few weeks and months, you're going to need to make sure that you water your pumpkins enough, and that means watering them 1 to 2 inches per week. They need a lot of water to keep developing their vines and then the pumpkins. Along with watering, make sure to keep up your weeding, and to help with weeding, you can lay down a light layer of mulch to help keep weeds at bay and keep moisture into the soil so it's readily available for those pumpkins. And lastly, make sure to water around the plants, not directly on them, because you don't want to encourage diseases or pests while these are growing in your garden. Now, it's important to know that pumpkins have both male and female flowers, and they're not self-pollinating, so you're going to need to encourage pollinators not only in your garden but around your pumpkins to actually develop the actual pumpkin fruit. Now, if you have very few pollinators that visit your garden, you might need to pollinate the female flowers of your pumpkin plants yourself. Also, make sure once your pumpkins start to develop, get like a paper plate or even a piece of cardboard and slip it underneath your pumpkin to make sure that there's a barrier between your pumpkin and, say, the ground or just the bare dirt itself. You want to prevent any rot from happening. And the last thing to know is that your pumpkins will need direct sunlight to hit their surface so they develop their color and their smooth texture. So what you're going to need to do is remove leaves that are actually shading out those pumpkins, and you'll give them that direct sunlight that they need to further develop and ripen.
When you're ready to harvest your pumpkins, cut the pumpkin stem 1 to 4 inches away from the actual fruit before the first fall frost. If the stem is cut too short, the pumpkin won't store as long. Harvest in the early morning after watering when the plants are least stressed and the stems are really strong. You'll want to place your pumpkin in a full sun location for about 2 weeks to help harden the skin and help it ripen even further. After the 2 weeks, your pumpkins can be placed in a cool location until you're ready to use them for baking.
Now, if you need more fruit or vegetable planting, growing, or harvesting tips, you can always go to EdenBrothers.com and check out their planting guides.
And we hope this video was really helpful for you in sowing your own pumpkin seeds. And from us at Spoken Garden and Eden Brothers, thank you for watching.